It's quite exciting, and this is very mesmerizing. I mean, it looks like bent wood, but we'll get talking to the artist behind this work. Ananse, kindly join me here. I would like to know what inspires your art. Why a bent wood?
Okay, so literally, I call this piece Uja, and metaphorically, would the music disappoint me? Um, Metaphorically, the Uja means a lot because I'm a writer. Uja is Ja. Uja means a whole lot of things in my narrative context. But then the reason why I teamed it Uja specifically is that the advent of the Atlantic slave trade, our ancestors were using the mechanisms of elements, like the nature's elements, to fight against the oppressor. So, for instance, when that these are the elements, because it's natural and it falls within the scope of nature, I just allow my art to play naturally without me not trying to direct it in it. I want it to turn out on its own as part of my practice. So during the advent of the slave trade, one of the mechanisms or the tools they use to fight against the oppressor is burning down their farm plantations. So they cultivate this, what do you call it, plants, and when it's time for harvest, they decide to set them on fire as a form of resistance because they can't fight the suppressor. You get me? So that was the way they could say or resist the enemy in that contest. So burning down the plantations brought the whole activity to a halt. That at a point they felt like, okay, it's of no relevance, therefore you guys should go back home. And then they are coming back home. Those they find their way back home, like the Tabon family found in Jamestown, the Afro-Brazilians. They sail over the seas and they claim their ancestors were so-called damn people. To find your way over the sea, that miles they traveled on the sea, this should tell you that they were very, enlightened and sophisticated mindset or kind of people, that they were not just mere people that today's history and narratives makes our ancestors look like. And then the amazing part is finding their way back. They follow the path of the wind. They listen to the voice of the wind and they found themselves way back home. The sea played a key role in the advent because it was through the sea or the medium of water that they found themselves back home. Through by appreciating like certain deities of black societies, we call it Sokomam water and other forms. So elements is like our nature elements played a key role even in plantation. Some of them fought the slavery by setting up farms, and they use the land as their main whatever. You get what I mean? So the Oja is basically talking about elements. This exhibit, actually, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so it comes with an installation and an exhibition where I perform to also touch on the other sensory and elements of nature that I feel our ancestors were too connected, that they used to resist because they were ripped off by tools and weapons, because the slave master knows that when they have the tools and weapons they can fight them or harm them. So they were deprived, or even like gadgets or tools that could aid them in setting on fire were taken from them. But yes, still they had their own traditional way of going about and doing things. And this culture, I mean, smoking in my society looks like you are something else. So I have to go through all kinds of things to survive and to say no to the oppressor in the so-called my hair. People see you with your hair and they have problem with your hair because that is not reforming to the status quo of the Western society. So it's a big time problem that we are still resisting. But give thanks to the magneto within us, you get me. That part of the engine within the land, the motherland, keeps us connected and pumping that resistant, resilient energy that brings us fighting back through identity, through our music, through anything that you can talk about. We've been deprived, but yes, still we are making history as a race in both academia and sports, just name it. That's our level of resistance. That's how we can say we are tired, is to prove you that we are the best of the best. So what you're seeing actually, before anything turns out good, it needs to go through the fire. Gold goes through the fire to be refined. So what you see, isn't it amazing? I
It's
don't
very
know the eyes I'm
beautiful.
having though, but to me, it's the most. I mean, whatever. I'm being biased here though.
It's very beautiful. But I was going to ask, so do you put like a wool down and then burn it? How do you come up
So
with it?
actually, my work is more of an academic research based in terms of the material process, how the material has aged, the interaction the material has had with the society, and how it's been treated. So the board you see is not just ordinary board I just buy from the market or just pick from. These are imported wood or boards from Europe and Asia to construct. They use them in construction. So like most of these woods you see are found as fence for construction sites. Our ancestors, you see, my works are symbolisms. Our ancestors were used to build the so-called systems in the Europe and everywhere you call it, that they call themselves first-class countries, and we remain the bottom. We made it what it is, and afterwards, what are we? Our voice is never heard. We've always been looking at and pointed at to be looked down upon as a race. So that's where that narrative takes into play. The wood board is used to construct these powerful buildings and everything, and they just left like that. No proper care is taken to ensure that it is kept or recycled in the right direction. But then it ends up in our streets and compounds and areas becoming whatever, and then, and with the plastic too, to talk about the plastic is one of the mediums I use that it came in mind after I visited the police cells for a week, not a week, some days, and then I came out with a verdict of no charge. So my stay in there, how the inmates make use of the plastic bottle to survive, gave me a conscious and brought my awareness that, Chale, you've been doing this all this while. Why have you not paid attention to plastic bottles? In fact, it is resistant to our bad habit of like an indiscriminate way of disposing waste. The plastic has been vomiting us out and been talking to us. So the sea comes back to us, and then all of what we see is what it's about. Okay.
Wow, thank you very much. Indeed, every mural has its own story.